diving into the topic today, we are going to talk about the fourth hindrance of the classical five hindrances of Buddhist philosophy. Now, what are the five hindrances? They are an aspect of meditation, but also about one's own life that often comes in front of them when they are trying to build a better life. But the hindrances are classically seen as issues that come forth that kind of interrupts one's own happiness and one's own improvement in the spiritual path itself, but also like on an emotional path themselves. Now we have gone through the three different hindrances so far. The first hindrance was world desire. The second one was aversion, anger. The third one was about sloth and dullness. And today's topic is going to be about agitation and worry. Yeah, go on. Do you have something to say?
So you're saying the hindras are the hindrances
Mm-hmm.
are like things that slow you down or can stop you in your spiritual path. And they're like are the hindrances barriers? Can they be life barriers? Is that kind of what it is? Just like everything or anything that could just slow you down, maybe? Or, you said there's
Mm,
eight, right? So there's mainly
five.
eight things.
There's five.
Five. Okay.
Yes. They are
They're kind of like the
classic.
five presets in a way.
No. It's just that they have the same number. But most issues when it comes to meditation can be traced to these five places. But it's mostly just you should be mindful and just be aware if they do appear or not, and if they do appear, then how to deal with them in general. But then also not only in meditation, but also in normal everyday life scenarios themselves. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking about that.
Oh, man.
But today I want to start with a story, and the story might be something that people can relate with. And it's that there is this person called James. Now, James he has a crush on Jack. And James is really wanting to ask Jack out, but they just feel quite nervous about it. Now, they are quite nervous about it, and they just finally come up to the day that I'm going to ask them out. Now, an hour before that, they get prepared for it. They're like, okay, now I'm gonna get ready. I'm so ready. But during that 1 hour, they are in their own apartment before going to a party that's really nearby in the next block. They are trying to pick up the right suit for that scenario. Should they wear blue or red? And then they think like, what if they don't like red? What if they like blue? What if they don't like blue? What if they like red? And then they go to the different toothpastes that they're going through, like which kind of toothpaste they're going to use to brush their teeth, just to make sure that nothing happens with their breath. Is this toothpaste better or that one? And then they think that, oh, like, should I come to the party itself with my other friend? Now, the issue with my other friend is that they are considered to be a little bit more ugly. And I watched this one video where there was this one really smart person who said that, oh, like, if you hang out around ugly people, then people will think you that you're ugly. And if you hang out with good-looking people, then you will be more good-looking. So then they think like, what if I go with them? Like they won't accept me. And then they have this entire head filled with all these kind of ideas about the future and about this scenario. Now, when they open the door and walk out, they're walking to the next block. Their heart is beating so fast. Now, just before going to the block itself, they still doubt. They still think, oh, what if that happens? What if that happens? And then they go to the door itself. They go by themselves. They are thinking that like maybe I should wait for my friend because maybe it looks better that I'm like social and I have friends. But then what if like they start thinking that I'm much more uglier than I actually am? And then what turns out to be at the very end is that they just are trying to knock. They count to 3, 1, 2, and then they turn around and then they walk out. And then they go back home. They avoid the entire scenario itself. Because sometimes when you're just so in what if scenarios, just avoiding the situation itself sometimes helps the most. Is that something that people can relate to? That instead of like actually confronting the highly worrisome and anxious situation, you just completely walk out from that. You don't even put yourself in that scenario. I have multiple times experienced that in my life, but I wish like people can have experienced that too in your lives too. You can also use the reactions too on VRChat if you have experienced it too. if I'm not alone over here, yeah. So usually when we are talking about this kind of worry and this kind of anxiety, it's like this kind of what if scenarios, like what if. And everyone has this. Like if you're having this, you should not be feeling like that there's no help for you, because everyone has these kind of issues, even me. So because everyone has these kind of issues, there's help for that. There is therapy, and there's actually professionals that can help you out with that. So if you actually need professional help, I highly recommend getting help with that. But even people who are not diagnosed with anxiety, they still have this. Because it's a core part of our mind, what makes us human, right? Because like, well, how does it make you guys feel when you're anxious? If you don't mind me asking. How does it emotionally feel like? Go on, Franz.
So to really explain it, when you're in an anxious feeling, it's kind of like, like you're in like a skin you can't really get out of, or you're just kind of tight in your body. It's like, oh man, I can't do this, man. Who I could be up high up, that's anxious. You're looking down like, oh
Mm,
my God, it's the freaky, it's the sometimes it can be harsh, there's different like main feelings for it, but mainly it's just like a very much of a fear kind of. It's
mm,
a trigger. Okay.
mm. Feeling bad about it and stuck. It's not positive. I guess that most people would agree it's not positive. Is there some people who want to elaborate on that? Want to tell more about how do you guys feel about when you're anxious? Go on.
Well, I usually just do escapism. I try to avoid the situation as much as possible. Like,
Mm. Yeah, because it feels extremely uncomfortable to be in an anxious situation, right? I too, like I will, when I look back at all the different situations when I've been anxious, it really feels like something is like actually like putting you into a box. It's like there's a lot of pressure when that happens, and it's really uncomfortable. It really feels like that you're getting squeezed from all directions, and it's not that enjoyable But I would say that most scenarios when you are feeling anxious, it comes from the fact of you looking for yourself. So like this is like some people say that it's like a problem, like it's some problem to get rid of, but I will highly disagree with that, and most people in psychology too will highly disagree with that, because it's a core part of humans planning for the future, right? Because without anxiety, it's kind of, you're going to have quite an issue to plan out about the future. But there's a perfect balance to have with that, because if it gets too overpowered, then it's more like a horse without a master. It's just going all over the place and kicking down all different doors and destroying everything in its path, having too much power on it. It's just, you have just too much energy on it with that. Now, when one is anxious, they usually are just looking for themselves. They're trying to protect themselves, or they are trying to evaluate for the future, to prepare for it. So people who actually are the most anxious do really well in school, because they're anxious about the test that is going to be the next week, that they cannot be partying, they cannot be hanging out with their friends, because they have to be studying at home. Because if I don't pass this exam, what if my mom will yell at me, and what if people won't like me, and what if I won't like to get to that school? It's always just thinking about what if. That's why you see it quite often that smart people tend to be quite anxious, because anxiety like gives out this tendency to actually like study a lot, especially in our modern society. But it also brings quite a hefty deal of unrestlessness, that you're not feeling that restful and not that peaceful, because the pressure feeling is like really pressuring you a lot. Hmm. Well, how do you guys deal with it when you're feeling anxious? You, Lois said, or Leo said that you just avoid the scenario itself, but what do you guys do when you feel anxious? Is there someone else that want to say other than Kokon? Well, yeah, go on.
I mean,
Well, there's many ways to deal with it. You can, well, get into a calm space, try to lower lights down, and kind of just breathe.
Hmm.
That's a good way. Kind of just a little bit, just feel into your body and kind of relax into it, get more grounded. Uh, you can try to go to bed. You could, if you have some kind of calming medication, maybe it isn't, maybe it's prescribed to you. You can take that and calm yourself down just a little bit. You can go outside. You can kind of jog, kind of get yourself a little bit of a muscle. Kind of give yourself a little more of a boost. Sometimes it could be that you feel like you're being too lazy and you get too kind of like anxious because of that, or you're not, lazy enough and you kind of think you're doing too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way I would do that.
Hmm. How about you other guys? How do you deal with anxiety and worry, getting agitated by it? Go on.
Don't.
You don't?
You don't.
You don't? Okay.
No, don't.
Hi, I'm new. I'm pretty uh, quite high anxiety now. So
No
I've been
worries.
waiting to come. I've been wanting to come here for a while. Edward actually told me about it. Amen. And so I'm like autistic and ADHD and anxiety, all
Mm.
that kind of thing. So it's a bit of an issue shyness and that. But
Mm.
meditation, breath work, trying to be mindful of what my needs are and what my body is trying to tell me without letting my mind overrun itself.
Mm.
Much like now, I've just kind of bit the bullet and thought I'd take this opportunity just to say hi, hello, and incorporate that into my practice.
Mm. I am quite grateful that you, even throughout your feelings of anxiety, you decided to talk. That's wonderful to hear, because it's just taking a step back and avoiding the situation itself, you never give yourself an opportunity to learn how to deal with it. You never get experience. But if you put yourself outside of your comfort zone and you even go through that, then you gain experience, and you will see that it will quite fade over time. But that's what's amazing to hear. I'm grateful for that. Go on, Edward. How do you deal with anxiety?
That's beautiful. I usually listen like to calming music, like that with nature sounds, or I have like I have an Alexa there. You ever heard of Alexa? And you can ask them the person that you tell them to play like ocean waves. They'll play ocean waves or piano music, and I find after listening to that, it really calms you down and relaxes you very much.
That's great. That's so great. Sounds lovely. I can tell you guys something that some people do. I do not recommend it, but I can give you a spectrum of people what they do. These are some activities that some people do, but there's also the activity of cutting themselves. Some people cut themselves to deal with anxiety. And why does it work? Why does inflicting pain on oneself help? And all these kind of activities too. Well, because when we are talking about anxiety and about worry and so on, it is usually about the future, what will happen on the future, right? So what if instead of thinking about the future, you think about the present moment? So what if you ground yourself in this present moment, what is happening right here? That is the cure to anxiety. Now, when you're just like Con said, running jogging, running outside and climbing and doing these kind of activities, or listening to relaxing music, or even cutting themselves, like these are activities that are coming from the external world, and they're bringing you to the present moment. They aid you to come to this present moment. But when you're thinking about the present moment, you cannot really be in the future. So you cannot be anxious, because you can only be anxious when you're thinking about the future, different outcomes in the future. But if you bring yourself in the present moment, that helps. And there are a lot of different activities that help with that. And that's why meditation helps, because the art of meditation is to bring oneself continuously to the present moment. So when one's mind is wandering from an idea to an idea, from a future scenario to an other sensation and so on, they bring their minds back again to the meditation object, what they want their own minds to stay with, and then try to stay the center of focus in that area where it is. And when you prepare that and when you practice that, your mind starts to kind of be in your order, and you can kind of order it around, and it doesn't go randomly from a place to place, and it doesn't react to impulses from the external world. Now, when you bring the mind to the present moment again and again and again and again, you practice yourself to be present, and you can snap your fingers to be present. And then when you can do that, then you can just eventually eliminate the anxiety itself. But that's one place where anxiety comes from. It is Being in the future, that's where anxiety comes from. And the other part where anxiety comes from is to be insecure. So you're not secure about the future. You're not sure about the future. That's also the other part of the spectrum too. So one's own confidence about the future is what brings out the end to endless amounts of anxiety. Now, how does one get confident? It is not to get out of the experience themselves. It is to gain experience with the uncomfortable situations that you have. And when you are in these kind of scenarios, then you gain experience. And when you have gained that experience and realize that it's not the end of the world if this happens or that happens, and the world is much more bigger place than only me. Then you will realize that, hey, it's not that bad, and I can deal it in the future. I cannot deal it with in the present moment. So there's the two parts of anxiety. It is to be in the future and being insecure about oneself. And how to deal with that is to gain confidence and to gain the power to be in the present moment. Those are the two evaluations. Go on, Edward.
Yes, I was also thinking if you're anxious, maybe talk to it with a friend of yours and maybe ask for their advice, and they might give you good advice that could make you less anxious.
That's great. That's great. Having great friends is also part of the path itself, but just remember that they should be friends that don't make you yet again anxious. So having friends that can be calm, can be understanding, that listen to you, and then also you can listen to them too and give that same kind of positive feedback back. That is highly important. Now, how do you guys feel when you are no more anxious? How does it feel like when there's no anxiety?
You feel happy. You feel happy, satisfied. You're satisfied with your life.
You satisfied?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. How about friends? How do you feel?
You are more cheerful, and you are more cheerful. You are more cheerful in relations with other people.
How about friends? How do you feel when you are not that anxious?
Like there's a depth,
Death?
awareness, and a depth.
Oh.
DEPTH.
Yeah.
Yeah, a depth of awareness and
That's true.
progression of growth.
That's true. Well, when I do not feel any more anxiety about the scenario that I have or worry about the scenario, I feel like a slave that has been freed, a free slave. That's how I feel. Because to be under the command of anxiety, it feels like you are under slavery, under someone's other's control. Because like that's how it feels like. Your mind is just making you commands, and it's you're just listening to the self mind, the self talk that you have within your own mind, and that's the thing that controls you. But it's just a small aspect of you, the self talk within your mind, because you are much more deeper and you're much more than that. It's just like student said that that there's more depth to you. And there's just this anxiety feeling. Is there any other comments that you guys want to make before we start the meditation about anxiety? Go on, Con.
I feel like the best way that you can be able to deal with anxiety generally, like you said, not be insecure and nothing but the future. But I think also if you just have a plan, you know, you just know what you're going to do, have it all figured out before you have to actually go and do it. It can help out to have a direction, have a purpose. Wait me real quick. And a child. That's all I wanted to say.
That's a great comment, because I didn't talk about planning at all. But that too, if you have a plan, then you don't need to worry about it. But of course, you start worrying still, because it comes from the insecurity about the future.
Addressing
Mm.
addressing the anxiety
Mm.
as another thing. So you could call it Dave from down the road or something,
Mm.
or treating it with the inner child
Mm.
in mind.
Mm.
I find help.
Is there any other comments that you guys want to make before we start the meditation? No? Well, I have one thing. So in summary, is being in the future and having insecurity. Those two things. And if you're anxious, and the cure for that is to be present and to have confidence. And to learn those is to you to learn. I cannot teach you those, and no one can teach you those. It is only you that can make the skills to learn those. Those are actual skills to learn. It's just like basketball, or like football, or sports, or climbing, or archery, or anything like that. They are just skills that you can learn. And that's what we do over here. That when you meditate, you practice your mind coming back to the present moment. And now, when you meditate, if you notice the emotions of anxiety, the pressure that you have on your body from anxiety, that's how you can feel it, for example. Or when your mind is going to what if, then you notice that, aha, I am having an anxious thought cycle at the moment. Now remember those things, that you're having that, and what you should be doing in that moment is to just bring your mind to the present moment, and just feeling that you cannot do anything about the future in the really present moment, because you're not in the future, you're in the present, and you can only do present actions in the present moment. That's all. Thank you all guys for being here today. Like I'm talking to the YouTube itself, and we will start with the guided meditation.